Welcome along to the Juke in association with RedZone.bet. We are looking ahead to the American football season, which kicks off very soon. I'm Bruce Millington, and I am delighted to introduce an expert panel of gridiron gurus who are going to take you through the best bets on who's going to win the whole damn thing. Hopefully not those bloody Patriots again. Where the value is on MVP, some divisionals. We'll have week one naps and we'll be looking at all sorts of exciting betting opportunities with RedZone.bet. We've got Mark Webster, a familiar face from the world of NFL sports broadcasting from RedZone.bet. We've got Rowan Dhaliwal, one of their foremost NFL experts. And we've also got the former Sky Sports NFL editor, Tom Julian. Welcome along, chaps. Like I say, let's start at the top. Who is going to win the whole damn thing? I will read through the latest prices from RedZone.bet and then the boys will pick through the value. The Patriots, 7-1. Now, we could of course cut this quite short and just say back the Patriots, because if you do that, you will show a profit, but hopefully we can get them beat, because I'm bored of you, Belichick. Go away, Brady. They're 7-1. It's 8-1 the Chiefs. The Saints are 10-1. It's 11-1 the Chargers. Also, the Rams, the other LA team, are 11-1. Philadelphia Eagles, 14s. Green Bay Packers, 18. Cleveland Browns, 20-1. I thought a naught had fallen off the end of that price, but we'll discuss that in a bit. Dallas are 20-1, 22-1 Chicago, 25-1 Bar. Let's start with you, Mark. Who is the team to back this
Well, unfortunately, I mean, clearly, my hair colour does designate the fact that, of course, I've also had to follow the Patriots from Kingdom Come till now. And the temptation is to say everything we're going to say, then lay the fact that you just go with them anyway, even though emotionally you don't want to. So I'll go with the emotions this one here, but I think there's very sound argument to say the Kansas City Chiefs are just that good. And they proved themselves that last year. They proved themselves so durable. They were in close games all the way to the line. And I just think it's his third season, Patrick Mahomes, this will be.
Yeah.
He breaks a record, 3,000-yard running record his first year, MVP the next year. He's good Super Bowl champion.
I mean, and you've got to look. You've still got Tyreek Hill in the mix. We thought, would he be playing? Will he not? It looks like he will be. He'll be starting week one for them, which is massive. You've got Damian Williams, Sammy Watkins. They've still got those weapons that are going to cause defenses grief. And I agree with you completely, Mark. Patrick Mahomes. He had an amazing season, 50 touchdowns, and he can step up. That's the mad thing. He's still got things to learn. So I like the Chiefs a lot. If you're going to go away from the Patriots in the AFC, I think the Chiefs are the ones.
But are you going away from the Patriots because you just can't have them? Or, I mean, is 7-1 a value bet?
Probably not.
No, I don't think it is. And I tell you why, the Patriots are aging. At some point, Tom Brady's got to finish. He's 42, 43?
Yeah.
And Julian Edelman is not getting any younger. They can't just keep doing it, can they? I tell you, in the NFC, I like the Saints. I think they're fun. They've got a huge amount of firepower. It feels to me like it's do or die for Drew Brees as well. And you look at Michael Thomas, to me, he's the best wide receiver in the league. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Alvin Kamara, these guys are playmakers in their own right. So if anyone's going to challenge the Patriots, I see it come from the other side, the NFC, and I like the Saints.
So your main bet is the Saints?
I'm going to take the Saints, yeah.
Are you going to go for Rowan?
I will also go with the Saints. I think last year they were obviously extremely close to getting to the Super Bowl. They kind of had that heartbreaking PI non-call against the Rams, and I think they're well stocked on both sides of the ball. And I think, this might be Drew Brees' last go. So I think they're a strong bet, 10-1.
I guess, do we ignore or do you address now the fact that you'd probably had the Colts in the conversation up until mere minutes ago, really?
Yeah. Small problem there, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, Andrew Luck is, to me, Mark, he's the difference between a Super Bowl contender and not even making the playoffs. He's that good. And we saw it. He was comeback player of the year last year. And now the Colts are scrambling. They've got Jacoby Brissett, who's obviously learnt at the hand of Tom Brady and latterly Luck. But can he do it for a whole season? I'm not so sure.
I mean, Rowan, their odds have taken the biggest walk, haven't they? They're at 66-1.
Yeah, they were at about 12-1 before Luck announced his retirement. Now they've dropped down to 66-1. I think they've still got a really strong roster around Brissett, but I think they're basically going from a top 5 quarterback to a guy who's probably not even the top 25. So that's obviously the difference.
One factor at the start of each season is anyone going to have home advantage? But I don't think it's going to happen this year, is it? We're in Miami for the final, aren't we?
Yes, we are Miami. I don't think Miami has really any chance of getting out of their division, let alone getting
It's nice to be able to mention them once this season.
Yeah.
Ultimate destination.
Who do you prefer, Mark, out of the two Los Angeles teams?
I suspect. Do you know what? Well, both have kind of given themselves outside chances of recent times. I think. I think you have one. You know, in the Rams, you've got kind of one team that's sort of that has implied that they know that they can now do it. But then you've also got another side that has had the potential last year, did better, and were likely to better again this year.
Yeah,
I don't know, but against each other, it's a tough one.
From the Chargers' point of view, I think they've come out of this period where they just couldn't get over the line.
Yeah.
They had injuries constantly, and they've also had Melvin Gordon, who's proved to be a difference-making running back. Now they're having kind of contract talks. It's all a bit up in the air whether he's even going to play or whether he's going to hold out. So there's still that underlying kind of tension there. Whereas the Rams, you've got this guru, Sean McVay, who just seems to be working miracles. He's got a great staff. We've got Aaron Donald on the defensive side of the ball, who's potentially an MVP candidate. For me, it's still the Rams that are going to be the top team in LA.
Rowan, who is the team that are going to improve most this season?
Well, a team that I really like is the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're really strong on offense. They've also got major weapons in Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. Matt Ryan has been MVP before. And then on defense, they only had 7 wins last year, but they lost 2 of their best defenders in the first month of the season. So I think if they get healthy seasons out of Deion Jones and Keanu Neal, they could be a strong contender in the NFC South.
Excellent. I was going to ask who's the team that's going to regress, but I think we've already touched on that. Indianapolis Colts, isn't it?
I mean, do you think the Chicago Bears will? I mean, there's a lot of talk around the Chicago Bears, and of course, you've got this amazing fact that their coaching staff was acknowledged as being such a major factor last season. But have they got enough then to move on a gear from there?
I think they do. I quite like them, Bruce, as the outsider for an NFC championship berth. I think, like you say...
I'll tick that little boxes off there. That's good to know.
Matt Nagy's done a wonderful job there, and their defence with Khalil Mack leading and he's a phenomenal player. I really like him, and I think he could... I think if everything breaks right for him, he could challenge the all-time season sack record this year. Do they have enough going forward? Is Mitch Trubisky a MVP-type quarterback? I'm not so sure. That maybe is where it holds them back. But we've always talked about how defense wins championships.
Yes.
And I think the defense is certainly going to take them into the postseason.
Yeah.
Oh, 13-3 last year in the Super Bowl, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean, is that you go back over a lot of those kind of postseason games, the final itself. Are we heading to a trend where perhaps we're seeing tighter, lower scoring games, in which case a team like Chicago definitely comes into play, doesn't it?
Often, I think that is often the case. You know, we've seen the Broncos do it, the Seahawks do it, the Patriots win it in a low scoring game. Obviously, the kind of outlier there is the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl, which was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But often it gets to those kind of those end games, the big game, and defenses often come out on top.
Okay, so to sum up then, just quickly in a word, who wins the Super Bowl this year? Mark?
I'm going to go, it's the Chiefs.
Chiefs.
I'd like to think.
Rowan?
I'm going Saints.
I'm going to say it's Saints as well.
And 2 votes for Saints. Right then, another very popular market at the start of each season, of course, is who is going to be the regular season MVP. RedZone.bet make Patrick Mahomes 6-1 favourite. I think that's industry best, isn't it?
That is the industry best, yes.
Jolly good. 10-1 Aaron Rodgers, 10-1 Drew Brees, 10-1 Carson Wentz, 12-1 Baker Mayfield, 14-1 that guy Tom Brady, who I hear is quite good, 18-1 Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers, and it's 20-1 bar. Tom, we'll start with you. Where is the value here?
It's a difficult one. So I've got on my list Baker Mayfield, but it all depends on whether the Browns can be this super team that they seem to have assembled here. You know, you've got...
I'm not hearing you.
Odell Beckham Jr., you've got Nick Chubb playing really well. They've got a decent offensive line that's going to protect Baker Mayfield. And, you know, he's got that attitude, Mark, that just reeks of quality MVP type quarterback. Can he do it? I still don't know. But for 12-1, I quite like it. That's where
I must say, you mentioned Odell Beckham Jr. there, and I wouldn't discount his name, not least of which is we know he's something of a superstar, but he's now surrounded by good players.
Yeah. 50-1.
Exactly. But we've heard about him before in not great company.
Yeah.
So what is he going to be like, arguably, in a really good unit? I could see him. And also, funny enough, Carson Wentz is another name that I looked at because I've always had a soft spot for the Philadelphia Eagles, and the beauty of them as a team is that if there is a kind of if a gung-ho season does emerge, and perhaps you have a team that kind of goes out there and plays that way every week, and it kind of works for them, then he will be a success story.
Yeah, definitely. I think, they've added a lot of weapons around him as well. He was obviously, I think he was going to win MVP 2 years ago before he tore his ACL late in the season. So I think everyone expects the Eagles to be really good this year. So
that's the question, though, isn't it? If he can stay fit, then the Eagles are on the way up. If he can't make it, then that season falls into question, a bit like Indianapolis.
Rowan, isn't Mahomes just the value here? I mean, he's the superstar, he's the pin-up boy, 6-1. Those odds say that if you play this season 7 times, he's going to be MVP once. I think I'm quite happy to take that.
Yeah, I think for me, he's probably the most uniquely talented quarterback I've ever watched. It obviously helps that he's got really unique talents around him. He's got Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. He's got a genius offensive coach with him. I think the second half of last year, team sort of had a bit more tape on him, and he slowed down a little bit. And I think, this season again, we might see a little bit less. He's not going to take anyone by surprise.
I was going to ask about that because presumably, if you're a coach of any of the other 31 teams, one of the things you're going to be doing is saying, how do we stop this guy?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
as you say, you've got a whole body of evidence now. So presumably, you can neutralise him to an extent.
I think to a certain extent, but the thing is, there's no way for a defense to stop the way they stretch teams sideways and over the top with Kelce and Hill. I think they're probably two of the best at their position around the league. But they were obviously healthy all year last year. So if either of them misses some time, you could see their offense sort of slow down a little bit.
You know this, Bruce, obviously doing the numbers there, is that if you like me are going with Kansas City, then you would pretty much nail on MVP as being as being Patrick Mahomes, wouldn't you? Because one is not happening without the other, I suspect.
I think it's quite important to say that he could be a generational talent, an Aaron Rodgers type generational talent. And when you have somebody like that, you just can't stop it. My ideal Super Bowl would be the Chiefs and the Saints. Imagine
that'd be pretty.
The powerhouse that would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, the coaches can look and look and look, but he's got so many ways to kill you, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good. Probably the most exciting element of the new season is just seeing if he can carry on with his progress. Exciting news on the betting front is that RedZone.bet are now doing match bets as well, seasonal match bets. Ryan, tell us about them.
Yeah, so we're pricing up seasonal match bets in total wins between different teams. So you can bet on, for example, the Bears and Packers, who's going to win more games. And then for teams that are a bit more mismatched, we're handicapping it. So for the Giants, they're getting 4 wins against the Eagles. And if there are any seasonal match bets that aren't offered on site yet, you can tweet at us at GoRedZone, and the traders will price them up.
Mark, Steelers against the Browns. And I need holding back not to remortgage my house to back the Steelers. But Mark, I think you might be going to tell us in a little while I need to hold fire on that.
I think so, yes. And we can go into detail why the Browns are, strangely enough, a conversation nowadays. But equally, kind of looking at what some of the other markets like to make the playoffs, I could see how Pittsburgh in their division could possibly just pick the Ravens. And, which of course, that doesn't necessarily answer the issue of these two going against each other. But I think there's enough about Pittsburgh this year. They may they may be in the postseason one of the weaker sides, but I can see them being divisional winners.
I see the AFC North as a 3-horse, fairly equal race here. You don't get better by losing Antonio Brown. I know he's a handful, and now I don't know what's up with his feet at this stage. But when he was in Pittsburgh, he was a Hall of Fame talent. And you lose Le'Veon Bell. I know he wasn't available last year, but these are big weapons. Ben Roethlisberger isn't getting any younger, and the Browns, like we've kind of alluded to, are on the way up. I find the Ravens a very intriguing prospect this year. I just feel sorry for the Bengals in that division.
Okay, now then. Each Sunday, I like to plot up 6 o'clock on a Sunday night and just stick RedZone on and just watch all the action unfold. I think it's one of the great TV experiences. And I think, Ryan, RedZone.bet have got some really good markets here that are going to make that pleasure even greater, aren't they? So I can just sit there and basically take over, under, homes over, aways and just watch it all unfold.
Yeah, so for the new season, RedZone is offering the Sunday Shootout. So across the 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. slates, we'll be pricing up total points, over-unders, total points, home versus away, who's going to score more. And then also we'll be pricing up who's going to be the high-scoring team on Sunday. So yeah, you'd be able to kick back and watch Red Zone.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of those, Mark, is that, you know, you don't necessarily need to pick out a specific team. You can just sit back, stick the Red Zone on, and away you go. Lots of people will obviously want to back overs on those groups, don't they? But sometimes it's worth swimming against the tide, I think, isn't it?
I think so. And also, just, you know, the nature of the way that we like to watch the NFL here in this country, particularly, it's so ingrained now, is that fantasy nature of doing it. So in other words, you'll have arrived at the Red Zone pretty much with all of this mapped out. You've probably got all your results predicted. You can just convert that into all the information that's needed for this, you know, for this anyway. So it's perfect.
And sometimes you can be right even when you were wrong, can't you, Tom? Because you can pick out a load of homes that you think are absolute bankers. They get stuffed, and then the ones you didn't particularly fancy come along and get the job done.
That's it. You look at someone like the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Vikings, and perhaps that's a difficult game, or perhaps not, and the Falcons rocket up the points, and you're laughing, and that covers the Chiefs, where actually you thought they were going to do really well against the Jags, and that's a much tighter game. So It's a nice one to do. And like you say, Bruce, I love the red zone concept because it's just action, 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 and this market just gives you that fun kind of throughout the evening.
Give us a bit of insight, as in, you know, dipping back into your guys as the Sky Sports NFL editor. How difficult is that to put together? I mean, I would imagine there must be one bloke who, or a woman who, when they finish their shift, must just reach for a bottle of gin and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, at Sky, obviously we take the feed, but it's constantly right. Go to camera, and the control room, it's like NASA in there. Everybody kind of talking over, get that, go to break, now we're coming back. And they do a wonderful job. I think it's Scott Hansen who presents it in the US, and there's no adverts.
They don't miss a beat though, do they?
They don't, and it's an incredible bit of TV production.
It's the most perfectly choreographed sport for this, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, if ever, and as well we know, if ever a sport was invented for the medium of television, and if anything then translates its red zone into that, it's perfect fit.
And what I'd say is it completely combats that view from people that don't watch the NFL that says it's too slow, there's too many breaks.
Exactly
or
right.
Turn on red zone and you are entertained for 6 to 8 hours.
It's like you said, Bruce, it's like a version of the sport in itself, rather than the sport itself sometimes.
Fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Right then, the action starts on the first Thursday night over here in September. So let's get some week one best bets. Tom, you can serve first. Who do you like?
I am going to go against my own team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs on the handicap. We've talked about them already as an AFC favourite, as a Super Bowl favourite, and I just think they've got the firepower. I think they're going to get better and better, and it feels like Kansas City's time. So,
what's the negative on Jacksonville, or is it a pro Kansas City shout?
I mean, the Jags have been a weird one. A couple of years ago, they were in the AFC Championship themselves. Last year was a down year. This year, I just don't know what they are. I've got Nick Foles in at quarterback, who's an obvious upgrade, but can he stay healthy? The defense needs a bounce back year. To me, there's just too many questions surrounding the Jacksonville Jaguars to count them as a contender just yet. That may change by week 3 or 4.
Rowan, who are you going to kick the season off with?
I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals. They're getting 3 points at home against the Detroit Lions. Detroit obviously has to travel across the country to Arizona. It's going to be the first game with Kyler Murray at quarterback and Cliff Kingsbury coaching. So I don't think Detroit's going to really have any idea what's to come. I don't think they've tipped their hand at all in preseason or anything like that. So I'm expecting them to come out and win in their first game.
Mark, who are you going for?
You wanted to know why.
You're going to solve the mystery, aren't you? You're going to solve the mystery of why they're 20-1, which seems to me like the worst price ever.
The answer to your question is I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I think there's an unknown quality to this one here. But I also see them as a very tight winner against Tennessee in this first game. Not least which you're going to get the bounce of the new coach. And there's a new coach in Freddie Kitchens in there now. But he's not unfamiliar to them, is he? Of course, he spent many years there in different coaching roles. But he's a youngish coach and he's head coach for the first time. Now, that can work wonders. We've seen it happen before. Now we find out whether the fact that he knows this lot so well that that this makes the whole thing a little bit more seamless. The suspicion is because, as you say, they're in the conversation.
Sure, and I think Freddie Kitchens seems like a people person, and there's a lot of big personalities that he's got to manage there. So that goes one of two ways, doesn't it? To me, I'm hearing all the right things out of Cleveland at the moment. I think they're going to be lively, Bruce. I think Tennessee, standing still a little bit. They've still got questions over their quarterback situation. And for me, this is a statement game for the Browns. I agree with you. I think they're going to do all right.
I mean, Ryan, this is a team who, before last year, when I think they were 8-7, had won one game in the previous 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, I know that, you know, the NFL is set up totally differently to any sporting event or competition we have over here, but it would speak something about the kind of sudden transformation teams can make. If Cleveland can suddenly go from laughingstock within 2 years to be Super Bowl champions, can you see it?
I will honestly say I can't see it. I think this is 1 year too soon for Cleveland. I think they're doing the right things. They're obviously getting a lot of talent in. They've got Steve Wilkes, who's the coach of Arizona, and is their defensive coordinator, which will help a little bit with the young coach. But I just think this year is going to be a building year for them. I think they go to maybe 9-10 wins, and then next year is the one where they really push on.
That's what I think you'll follow them in for a few little shock wins.
A team to keep on side of, you think?
Yeah.
I mean, a 10-win season for the Browns is
Yeah.
a victory.
Yeah.
If they make it to the postseason, then I think they'll be fairly happy with that because that shows really rapid progress.
Fantastic. Well done, chaps. This is brilliant. Before you go, I'm going to tap you for one last answer each. If you're only having one bet on this upcoming NFL season, what would it be? Tom?
I'm going to go a little bit out there. The MVP race is always dominated by quarterbacks for good reason. I think there's only been 3 in the last 16 years or so that haven't been quarterbacks. But if you do fancy a bit of a wild one, I like Khalil Mack from the Bears. Huge pass rushing talent. Little bit injured last year, but everything I'm hearing says that he could break the single season sack record this year. He'll be out there at beyond 100-1, I would say. But if you're going to have one bet and you want to make it a big ballsy one, Khalil Mack, MVP.
I should be doing that. Rowan, what's your nap?
I'm also going to go into the MVP market, not quite as ballsy as Khalil Mack. I'm going to take Jared Goff to win MVP. He's 33-1. I think, last couple of years he's played really well. I think last year he had over 4,600 yards, 30 touchdowns. And that was with Todd Gurley taking away 17 on the ground. Obviously this year Gurley's having a few issues with his knee. I think people are saying he has arthritis in his knee, which would obviously hurt his availability. So I think if some of those touchdowns come back Goff's way and they win 12, 13 games, he's a really good chance.
And Mark?
I think my shot will be, and this doesn't get them going past the Bears, but I'm going to guess that I'm out there in these kind of numbers for the Minnesota Vikings to make the postseason. I just think they can get a good enough record in their own division. And I'm relying on other people to be very poor in second position in the matching NFC divisions. But there's Minnesota. They've got their offensive line isn't necessarily up to that, but they're heading in the right direction for me. And so I'm talking about they might just nick that spot. But that's all I need, isn't it?
Absolutely. Good stuff. Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Don't forget, if you enjoy a bet on the NFL, go to redzone.bet for a fantastic array of markets. We will see you next time.